This is the new Ford Focus, and it's a little bit like those filters you get on Instagram stories. Let me explain. It's because you can have different looks depending on which version of the car you go for. So this is the sporty ST line version, so it's a bit like your bunny ears. Then you can get a different look if you have the posh Vignale, it's more like your cat ears. Whereas the active version, which is like jacked up, it has a different look again, which is like the mysterious French filter. And then finally, your normal one, it's just a good old-fashioned dog ears. This is not a dog-eared car though, it's quite a smart looking thing. Really like the look of this new Ford Focus. Price-wise, well, it actually starts from just over £18,000. However, you can save an average of over £2 on one through carwow. Now, if you want to see how much you can save on this car or any car, just click on the pop-out banner in the top right-hand corner of the screen, or on the link below the video to go to carwow, or simply just Google carwow and you can go straight there. One of the main ways this new Ford Focus is better than the old one is that it is quite a bit more practical than before. That's why I'm starting this review at the boot, the most exciting part of any car. Not, but I do need to illustrate it to you. The size is now average for this kind of car rather than just being way smaller than all the rest. And it's a nice square shape, so it's quite easy to load it full of stuff. There's a bit of a load lip to lift stuff over, but it's not the worst. You can fit quite a lot of stuff in this car. And there's some useful features as well. So there's that hook there where you can like hang your shopping bag off it like that, so things don't like slide around in the car when you're driving rather enthusiastically, which can be quite likely in a Focus because they are good to drive, but more of that later. Under here, you haven't really got any storage, just the space saver spare wheel. It's better to have that than a tyre repair kit, so we'll forgive Ford for that. And you've got some tethering points here and here. And that is pretty much it for the boot. There's no charging socket, which is a bit annoying. And this is the thing that does annoy me a little bit about this boot. When you fold the back seats down, you don't get a flat load floor. Look, you get this big ridge here. Part of the reason for that is that unlike in something like a Volkswagen Golf, you don't have an adjustable boot floor. Problem with that is when you're like loading really heavy items and you're trying to slide them to the front, you then have to go around and lift them up. It's easy for me because that suitcase is empty, but if it was full, it could be a bit more of a strain on my back. Oh dear. Anyway, let's move on to the back seats because this is another area that the Focus has improved. I'll just get this suitcase back out of the way, put the seats into position. While I'm leaning in, this is a good point to talk about the fact this car doesn't have too much wheel arch intrusion like you get on some other models, so the door's nice and wide, makes it easy to get in and out, which is perfect if you're a larger person. And if you are a larger person, you're not actually going to mind it too much in the back of the Focus. Unlike the old one, which was cramped, a bit like the boot, this one has loads of room. I mean, it really is very spacious. This seat is in my usual driving position. I'm an average size male for the UK, so 179 centimetres tall. And look, I've got lots of knee room, headroom's good as well. People over 6 foot will be fine back here. The footwell's nice and big, which helps on longer journeys. And you can put your feet under the seat in front because they are raised up a bit. It is spacious. There is a bit of a hump in the floor, but it's not too big. And that means that it's actually okay for carrying 3 in the back at once. Not brilliant, but all right for this size of car. And kids, 3 kids here in the back will be more than fine. Speaking of kids, they like the fact that the windows are big. The window ledge isn't too high, so they can see out even if they're short. And look at this. The rear window does go all the way down, so you can like lean your arm out a little bit like that, get a breath of fresh air. I do like that. One thing I'm not so keen on though is the position of the coat hook there. If you hang your coat there, it's going to, obviously if you've got someone in the back, it's going to get in the way. Also, these Isofix covers, look at these, they come off too easily. However, the Isofix points are dead easy to get to. Actually, if you want to see how easy it is to fit a child seat in the car, click on the pop-out banner in the top right-hand corner of the screen, or on the link below the video to watch my detailed practicality video. You'll also be able to see what it's like with 3 adults in the back here, and just how much stuff you can fit into the boot. Now, I also want to show you this, look, the seatbelt holder for the middle passenger here in the back. That is horrible, cheap plastic. There's some other bits that feel a bit cheap, such as the door tops here. Though to be fair, the door tops in the back of a Volkswagen Golf are hard brittle plastic as well. They don't feel any more expensive. Though those in a Kia Ceed are more expensive soft touch material. In terms of practicality back here, door bins are a decent size. Look, I can fit a drinks bottle in here, no problem at all. You have some nets here, which don't feel too flimsy, and they are big enough to hold an iPad. There is a 12-volt charging socket here as well, which is good, so you can charge some mobile devices if you want to, and you've got a little reading light there. And that's in a good position, and it's quite bright, so you can have a bit of a read in the back here if you want to on longer journeys. at night. Now let's move into the front of this car. The Focus always felt a little bit cheap on the inside and the design was a bit meh, but this one is much better. I actually do quite like the design of this dash, the way it swoops, and you have this panel here, which is different depending on which model of car you get, a bit like the face at the front. It's really easy to get comfy here in the Focus. The driving position is absolutely brilliant, but there's still lots of adjustment in the steering wheel and the seat. You can jack it up quite high, which is handy if you're short, or get nice and low for that full sporty driving experience. The quality in here is in some places really good and in others not so good. So for instance, the materials here on the dash are really soft. The leather on the steering wheel is absolutely fine. You've got soft touch here on the doors, these little soft inserts here. That's padded enough. But then there's other bits and pieces, such as when I go down here, that's quite cheap hard plastic, and look at this, oh my gosh, this moves. You don't have to put much pressure on it, and it just feels a little bit flimsy. And overall, I don't think the build quality feels quite as sturdy as that in a Volkswagen Golf, but it's not too far off. And I actually like the layout of it, so the controls for the heaters, very easy to operate. This new touchscreen, which stands up here on the dash, it's pretty good in the way that it's neatly in your eye line when you're driving along, so you're not taking your eyes too far off the road to operate it. And to use it, it is generally pretty good. So the screen is quite bright, the menus are easy to whiz through like that, not too hard at all, and it's all quite simple. Not the slickest system, but by no means the worst. Now for the driver, you get normal dials, but there's a digital display in between them, which you can actually go through quite a few functions here using the buttons on the steering wheel. So that's handy as well if you don't want to be looking and dealing with stuff here on the main infotainment system. Now for more detail on this car's infotainment system, click on the pop-out banner in the top right-hand corner of the screen or on the link below the video to watch my detailed infotainment review, and I'll talk you around a bit more of the interior of the car, the infotainment system, and the specs that you can get with this car. The entry-level model doesn't really have enough kit on it. For instance, you don't get this larger screen, you get this small screen, it just looks rubbish, so you want to avoid that. All but that entry-level style version gets this larger screen. However, you have to pay a bit extra if you want it with sat-nav, but you don't necessarily need it with sat-nav because you can actually connect your phone to the car, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and use your maps from your phone if you want to through there. My favourite trim is the one that I've got with this car. It's the ST line, so you get some larger alloy wheels, a spoiler and chrome exhaust pipes. You also get keyless go, which is quite handy, and the start button seems like it's in an awkward place there, but actually it's perfect for just starting it with your thumb. I like that, as well as all the kit that I just mentioned. You get the obvious stuff like cruise control, you get climate control and things like that. Now this particular car is the 1.5 litre diesel manual ST line, and the starting price is £23,000, which is pretty reasonable. But I plugged the details into carwow and I actually got an offer back for just under £21,000. It's quite a good value car. So if you click on the pop-out banner in the top right-hand corner of the screen, on the link below the video, you can go to our configuration page and just build some cars and see what kind of offers you can get back on them. Now finally, I'm just going to talk about the practicality here in the front. It's pretty decent. Look at this, you've got large door bins. I can fit my drunk, NutriBullet shake container there. And I like the fact that they've lined the door pockets with felt, like on a Volkswagen Golf, so things don't rattle about in there. There's some more storage just here. It's like a secret storage area. You have some storage down here, quite a lot actually. You've got a 12-volt socket, a USB input there so you can connect to the infotainment system or just charge your phone off it. The cup holders are hidden under there, and you can move this thing along to create more space or less space. And one of the things I like about it is that it's just the right depth, look at this, for a coffee cup. And even though it's there, it doesn't get in the way of the gear lever like they do in some other cars. Now under here, there is a little bit of storage. You've got a tray there, another USB port there, but it's not the biggest storage cubby. And in terms of the glove box, well, we've got it packed full of junk at the moment. Yes, junk. It's not the largest, but it's okay. And you have a separate shelf within it for the manual, which you don't get in all cars. So it's reasonably practical here in the front, as well as in the back and the boot. Not bad. Now then, it's time for the CarWow 5 cool features. You can get the car with a parking assistant, which will help you bay park or parallel park. Now there's nothing new with that. What is new on this car is that if you have the automatic version, you don't have to operate the brakes or the accelerator like you do in other systems. You just press a button and it does everything for you, the steering wheel and the pedals and the gearbox. Unfortunately, I have the manual version, so I still have to operate the gears, the pedals, but still does the steering. Not quite so cool though. You can get little pop-out door protectors. You'll see, as you open the door, they pop out and cover the edge, so it doesn't matter if you park in a tight space and accidentally, well, it doesn't to your car, which is perfect. The evasive assistant uses cameras to spot potential obstacles in the road ahead, and then the car will provide extra steering to help assist you swerve round and prevent an accident. If you have the optional adaptive suspension, the system can tell if a wheel suddenly drops into a pothole, and it holds it to stop it dropping so far so you don't get such a big thud. It's quite clever, that. If you're using the sat nav and think it might be better to, say, take the back route instead, all you have to do is reroute it and it'll find you an alternative way to your destination. However, this car isn't perfect. Here's 5 annoying things about it. The Focus has to have some of the nastiest connectors to hold up the parcel shelf. I mean, they're just so flimsy, and the way they work isn't that great. And then, my biggest bugbear, there's nowhere useful or handy to hide the parcel shelf out the way, so you just have to leave it in the boot, and even then, look, it barely fits. I'll give up. If you've connected your phone to the car by Apple CarPlay or Android Auto to listen to something like Spotify, if you want to use maps and you don't want to use the maps through your phone, say to save on data, but you want to use the car's inbuilt navigation, you can't just switch between it. You have to actually unplug your connection with your phone, which means that then you're not listening to Spotify anymore, and then you use the car maps. It's just a bit frustrating because in other cars you can actually use their sat nav while still being connected to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. The rear window actually extends quite far from the door, so if you open the door, say you're doing it for somebody, you have to be careful not to suddenly just jab yourself in the ribs with that part of the car. Ow. You can't turn off the lane departure warning systems, so I can have a choice of having it beep at me, I can have it steer me back in lane, or I can have it alert me or steer me back in lane, but I can't have both of them off. Why aren't I given the choice? Yes, I know it's for safety, but I should still be allowed to decide what I do forward. Thank you very much. While you can change between 3 different driving modes, normal, eco or sport, whichever one you selected, whenever you turn the car off, it'll automatically default to normal, which is a bit annoying if you're the kind of person who mainly likes to drive in eco or sport. This new Focus is up to 88 kilos lighter than the old Focus, and that's pretty much like not having to carry around someone who's eaten too much over Christmas the whole time, and that helps improve the economy. I find this Ford Focus really easy to drive in town because it gets the basics spot on. So the gear shift, nice, positive, easy to use. The automatic's good as well. The pedals, not too heavy, not too light. The steering, same again, not too heavy, not too light. I also like the suspension. It deals really well with bumps. It doesn't feel uncomfortable at all when you go over potholes or speed bumps. And then there's the visibility. I like how the fact that even though you sit kind of low in the car so it feels sporty, the dash is quite low, so you can get a good view over the bonnet. You know exactly where the front corners of the car are, so it's really easy to just slide through gaps in traffic. My only complaint with the visibility is that there is quite a blind spot created there, so you have to be careful when you're pulling out of junctions. And there's quite a big one at the rear corner as well, so when you're pulling out of junctions looking over your shoulder, that's not so good. But other than that, nice to drive in town. Get out on the motorway and it's equally as good. Nice and comfortable, relaxing, the seats are fine, it's not noisy. If you're doing lots of miles, you probably want one of the diesels. This is the 1.5 litre diesel, and it's supposed to do 80 miles per gallon though. I'm getting about 50, which is quite far off what they claim, but it's still pretty decent. Now if you want a more powerful diesel, you can get a 2 litre. And if you want a petrol, there's a 1 litre petrol with various power outputs, but get the 125 horsepower version because that's got enough punch for everyday use, both on the motorway and in town. There's also a 1.5 litre petrol, which is very nice actually. It's punchy, but it is a bit more expensive and probably not worth the extra cash. And there's a 180 horsepower petrol, which feels like a hot hatch and is good fun to drive. Also, the higher power engines, the 2 litre diesel and the 1.5 litre higher power petrol, they have independent rear suspension, which is a bit more sophisticated than the normal Focus is. And as a result, they handle just that little bit better, though you have to be a motoring journalist and like really pedantic to notice the difference. One thing you can notice slightly though is with the ST line versions, they have lowered, stiffened, sportier suspension. It's not stiffened to be uncomfortable. I mean, this is the ST line version, it's fine over bumps, but it does just feel a little bit sharper in the corners. And that brings me on to what sets the Focus out compared to all the other similar family hatchbacks. And that is that the Focus is the most fun to drive. It is a genuinely fun car to drive. So if you happen to encounter some twisty bends on your commute to work, you can have fun. You can have fun in this car. You know, it's an everyday, practical, decent, all-round family car that will put a smile on your face when you get the opportunity to drive it in a way that seriously annoys your cameraman. Isn't that right, Bradley?
Yeah, that is.
Are you feeling sick yet?
I'm getting there.
Well, I will. Well, I will stop so that you don't make a mess of the interior. So then, overall, to drive the Ford Focus, it can be comfortable and relaxing if you want it to be, but it can also be fun and make your passengers feel sick if they've annoyed you. Perfect. If you want to see how much you can save on a new Ford Focus, just click on the pop-out banner in the top right-hand corner of the screen or on the link below the video to check out the deals on CarWow. Alternatively, just Google CarWow. So then, what's my verdict on the new Ford Focus? Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, I reckon you should just go right ahead and buy the new Ford Focus. It's an excellent family car. If you enjoyed this video, please click on our logo to subscribe to this channel or to watch more content on the bottom right hand corner. However, if you want to save money on a car, click on the right to go to our deals page to see how much money you can save at CarWow.